granting credits to students for courses they have completed at another post-secondary institution or equivalent. There are different types of transfers. First is advanced stand-in, which is the process of granting a block of credits to students for courses that they have completed at another post-secondary institution. Students who submit an application for advanced stand-in must start in a semester higher than 1. So your entry semester would be 2 or higher. And generally, students submit an application through ontariocolleges.ca. If this is something that you are interested in or you think you may be eligible for, you will need to contact the admissions office for assistance. The second type of transfer is internal, and this is when you transfer courses between George Brown programs. So for students who have completed a course or a program at George Brown, you're going into a new program, and you want to know if any of your previous courses can be used to meet your new program requirements. Generally, the courses are automatically transferred, and you can confirm this by checking your academic progress report in StuView. However, if you do have any questions or concern, you can always contact your academic department for assistance. The next type of transfer is PLAR, which is what Stanley will be going over in detail. And this is the process where you receive transfers for knowledge and skills that you have gained through work or life experiences. And then finally, we have the online application process. So this is what my presentation is about, and it's the process of being granted credits for individual courses that you have taken at an accredited post-secondary institution or equivalent. And this process is done online through StuView. So just before I talk about how to submit an online application, I'm just going to go over some of the benefits of applying for transfer credit. So one of the benefits is that if your application is approved and you accept it, you can receive a smaller or a lighter course load. And with a lighter course load, you have more time to study and focus on subject areas that might be more challenging. And you also have the opportunity to have greater flexibility, not just with your current timetable, but for future timetables as well. And then finally, you have the option with the online application to submit an application for all your general elective requirements upfront. So the way the online process works is that for core courses like your English and your math, you can only submit an application at the time that you're able to register for those courses. However, with the electives, it's a bit different. So if you're starting a program and you're required to take 3 general electives, you can submit an application for all 3 of those elective requirements in your first semester. If you're approved for all 3, then you will not have to take any elective requirements for the duration of your program. So how do you get started? The first thing to know is when the application opens, and it does open on the first day of online registration for each term. So it's currently open right now. To apply, students must be eligible to register for the available term. So that would be the winter 2021 term. And the deadline to submit an application is the first day of classes. So if you are interested, you have until January the 11th, 2021 to submit an application or to make any modifications if allowed. To apply for transfer credit, we do recommend that students submit an application by completing the following steps. You log into StuView, register for all your courses, and then you submit an application. If you submitted an application through Ontario Colleges, and you also requested to have an electronic transcript sent to us, you may be automatically assessed for potential transfer credit equivalencies. So what that means is that we have a electronic database with pre-approved equivalencies that we have assessed from all 24 public institutions in Ontario. When we receive your electronic transcript, we assess it to see if any of your courses can be approved for transfer credits. If yes, we display this information in 2 ways. One, through your offer letter. So Some of you may have received this. And the second way is directly on StuView. Just before you register for your courses, there is a transfer credit options page that's displayed to students. And this is where you would see all approved transfer credits, and you have the option to either accept or deny it at that point. So what do you need to apply? An official transcript is required. And due to COVID-19, we're not able to process mail transcripts at this time. So the options that are available to submit a transcript is through ontariocolleges.ca, or to request to have your transcripts emailed directly from your issuing institution to transfer credit or admissions. Transcripts can be emailed via a secure digital platform or as a PDF. For students who are submitting an application using income and course from an international institution, a WES or ICAS report is required, and I'll touch on that in greater detail in the next slide. A course outline is also required in English or French, and then a minimum grade of 60% or C- is required for all application, and there are some exceptions where a higher minimum grade is required, and that's mostly for the health sciences courses. So again, if you are submitting an international transcript, a WES or ICAS evaluation report is required. This document is important because it compares your academic accomplishments from your international institution to Canada's educational standards. And dependent on where you're submitting your transcript from, there are different requirements. So if you're submitting a transcript from a US institution, a document-by-document evaluation or an assessment report and an official transcript is required. And again, that transcript can be sent via email to us. If you're submitting a transcript from a non-US institution, then a course-by-course evaluation or an assessment report is required, and that can also be sent via email. So we're not able to share everything about the transfer credit process in this session, but we can show you where to go to find additional information. So one of the main resources is our transfer guide, which is our transfer credit webpage. The second one is our course-to-course equivalency database. So I alluded to this in a previous slide. This is where you would go to see if any of your incoming courses has already been pre-approved at George Brown. And then finally, you can go to StuView. Some of you are already familiar with the StuView portal, and this is where you would go to not only apply, but you can also view our new updated how to apply for transfer credits online how-to guide. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'm going to just show you where you would go online to view the different resources that I just highlighted. Can someone please confirm that they can see my screen?
Can see it.
Perfect. So this is the transfer guide website, and on the left-hand side would be all the different unique navigations that you can browse through for your specific needs. The second is the course-to-course equivalency database. So again, this is where you would go to check to see if we have any pre-approved equivalencies. And what you would do is you would indicate your country, the province. In the drop-down menu, you would select your institution. Right now it's on Brock University, and then you would scroll down to see the different course combinations that we've already pre-approved. If you see a combination here, if you submit an application, we would only need to confirm your grade in order to approve the application. The third resource is StuView. Most of you, again, is familiar with this. You would log in and just follow the navigations to get to the transfer credit options. And then finally, this is our how to apply guide, where you have all the different details about the transfer credit process in greater detail. And so if you do have any questions, you can contact us at transfercredit@georgebrown.ca. And now I'm going to turn over to Stanley, who will continue the presentation on the PLAR process. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just get my screen up here. Okay, can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to be talking about the PLAR process. PLAR stands for Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition, just kind of a mouthful, so I'm just going to say PLAR from now on. So quickly, we'll just talk about what is PLAR and the benefits of PLAR. We'll mention what the PLAR process is, and I want to say that it is a process. It's not just one step, and we'll go into that. I'll address some very common questions that we get about PLAR, and then we'll open the question and answer period. So we recognize that your learning may have come in different ways. Melissa just talked about transfer credit, which is your learning from a recognized college or university, but we know that people get learning from experience, such as work experience or volunteer experience or just life experience. We know that there's formal learning, that is education, but it's not recognized through transcripts. For example, it may have come from corporate training or a private school. And there's also non-formal learning, such as what you learn in the workplace, at conferences, non-credited courses, and even independent study and self-study can come under non-formal learning. And we need a way to recognize these as well. Now, PLAR and transfer credit work side by side. We just heard about the transfer credit for the recognized colleges and universities, and PLAR is now to recognize your other types of learning that come from other sources. The assessor, when it comes to PLAR, is the college. We measure the nature and the extent of your learning. And the applicant is the student. So you'll be asked to demonstrate your learning. That might be in the form of an exam, a portfolio, or supporting documents. And I'll say more about this in a moment. Now, the benefits of PLAR, primarily, it's to gain academic credits. When you're looking ahead in your upcoming program and you see your semesters coming up and all of the courses that are coming up, almost all of these are going to be eligible for PLAR. So you can get a credit for a course based on your prior learning from different sources. You also get to avoid duplicate training. The whole idea is that you don't have to sit through a course and sit through lectures in an area that you've already completed learning for. And this validates your learning from your work or your life experiences and gives you a chance to demonstrate your knowledge. You know, apart from getting an academic credit, one of the side benefits of PLAR when people start that PLAR process is that it helps them clarify their employment and education goals. For a lot of people, they haven't sat down and done a self-assessment and said, well, what really is the sum total of my prior learning? Not just what I learned in a school or in a classroom or academic program, but also my life and my work experiences. And sometimes it helps them clarify what their educational pathway should be. What PLAR is not is that's a way to get a quick exemption from a course or a way to repeat a failed course. If you do attempt a course at George Brown and you're not successful, you do have to take that again. You can't try a PLAR to get around it. So it's not to do a makeup exam if you have a bad day at a test day or a way to skip a course. Really, what we're saying, it's not intended as an administrative shortcut. It's really intended to honor and to recognize the prior learning that you've done in all of your life experiences. So PLAR is a process, right? And we do have staff to help you in that process to make sure everything is done properly. So the PLAR office receives your PLAR application. As a student, you're providing the you're stating the course that you're trying to get a PLAR for, and also how you're backing up your claim, like the type of learning that you have that would take the place of the learning that you were going to get in your course at George Brown. The office sends it to the academic division for review. The division reviews it and provides a mark for the PLAR and their decision, and provides that back to the PLAR office. And the office works together with the registration office to record the grade that was assessed. And I'll say more about the grade in a moment. But the key is that we do have an office to make sure that things happen the way they should, to make sure that files are complete. So just one more point on the fact that it's a process, right? Because you're providing some backup information to back up your claim, sometimes there'll be a little bit of discussion. For example, if you say that you've done things in your work experience, the PLAR office or the academic division may come back and say, well, can we see some examples of that work? Can we see that marketing report that you said you did, or some of the examples of your, like a portfolio of your work from the career that you've discussed under your PLAR application. So there is a bit of a process involved. The department might come back to you and ask for more information. So there can be aware there can be some back and forth on this. So some of the most common questions: who is eligible? All students, right? If you're registered in a program, you are eligible to apply for PLAR based on your previous learning and experience. Which courses are PLAR eligible? Almost all of your upcoming courses in any of your semesters are eligible. Now I say almost because there are a few exceptions. A department will identify specific cases where they don't do PLAR process for it. For example, I'll just give you an example. In our healthcare programs, a department might say, well, we need you to complete this training under our supervision for the safety of patients because you have a clinical component and you're working with patients right away. So there are some exceptions where we would like you to do your training at George Brown, but for the most part, the vast majority of courses are eligible for PLAR. Who assesses the PLAR? Well, this is part of the role of the office that handles your PLAR application. They'll make sure to send it to the appropriate department. So, for example, if you have architecture experience, then it'll go to the architecture department to review it. Your English courses will go to somebody who is able to review English credentials. So it's our role as the assessor to make sure that qualified faculty do look over your PLAR application. And the method of the assessment, well, that depends on the nature of the course, and it also depends on how you're backing up your claim, depending on the type of learning that you had. So some courses, they lend themselves well to an exam, right? You might say, I know this material, and the college will say, that's fine, you can come and do the final exam, and if you do well, you won't have to attend class week after week, right? Other types of courses, they lend themselves to a portfolio. So samples of your work or your past work that demonstrate your knowledge and abilities. It could be a combination. It could be a skills demonstration, right? It really depends on the nature of the course that you're requesting the PLAR for. What's the deadline to apply for PLAR? We're asking for 3 months before the start of the course, because remember, this is not a simple procedure like looking at your past transcripts. This involves creating an assessment that's tailored to the way that you came to your learning. And if you give the department time, we're asking for 3 months, the more time you give them, the more time they have to do a proper review of your experience. And there is a cost for PLAR because we have to create an assessment. We have to do an assessment of your claim. There is a cost, and for each course this year, it's $115. So that is still less than the fee for a course, by the way. So what is the grade recorded? Now, this is important because when you get a transfer credit, you don't get a mark. You don't get A, B, C as a mark. But when you do PLAR, you do have a grade. So when the department assesses your PLAR claim, if they feel that you're going to get a pass, then they'll assess a letter mark to it, right? And that will go on your transcript. Sometimes a student decides that they need to upgrade a mark for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a personal reason, or sometimes they need to upgrade their mark because their particular program requires them to have a certain mark in that course or a certain overall GPA, then you can re-register for the course even after you've done a PLAR for that course and received the pass. Now, there are situations where a PLAR application doesn't result in a pass. They call it in this slide, they call it a failed PLAR grade, but just to let you know, it's not like failing a course. Nobody likes to fail a course, right? Obviously. But in this case, when your PLAR is declined, it might just mean that your background, your experience didn't exactly match what you were going to get in your George Brown course. It just might mean that your training was different. So for that reason, we don't actually record a failed PLAR in your transcript. So that's the good news. The bad news is you have to take that course like every other student, but it does not appear in your transcript as a fail. Okay, so once again, briefly, we have the transfer credit process working side by side with the PLAR. These two processes should cover almost all of the types of learning that you might present when you start your program at George Brown. It's easy to contact the PLAR office. We have an easy email address. It's plar@georgebrown.ca. So obviously in a group session like this, we won't cover everybody's individual situation, but you have our contact information now for PLAR and for transfer credit. And now we're going to open the chat. So get your questions ready. You can pop them in the chat and we'll be able to help you that way.
Thank you, Stan. Hello, everyone. Now the chat is open. So if you have questions on transfer credit or PLAR, you can post them now. Okay, we have first question. International students have to do ECA by WES or ICAS, which takes around 2 to 4 months. We cannot make it before the deadline. And which question do you have? How to apply for transfer?
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Yeah, can you please reply for the first question? Because the student has a question that international students have to evaluate their diplomas by WES or ICAS, and it can take 2 to 4 months, and we cannot make it before the deadline. In this case,
So if this is your situation, we do recommend that you send an email to transfercredit@georgebrown.ca. And as long as you have submitted your application before the deadline, so even if you don't have your documents, you can still submit the application. As long as we have the application before the 11th, we will work with you to ensure that we receive your document and your application is assessed.
Thank you. We have another question. I graduated from a university on my country 5 years ago. Can I still apply for transfer credit?
Yes. So there is a general minimum deadline of 5 years. However, the decision is up to the academic evaluator. So what we recommend is that even if it's from 10 years ago, still submit the application so the evaluators can review it and make a decision. But the general rule is there is a 5-year limitation.
Thank you. And that is January 11, 2021. Is it the deadline to submit your application on student for transfer credit?
So it's very difficult to hear you. Can you say that again?
Yeah, we just have I'm pretty sure the student is asking about the deadline to submit the application for transfer credit. Yeah, and it's January 11th.
Yes.
And one more question for internal credit transfer. Where can I find out that my application is approved?
So that would be you would need to contact the academic department. So the first step for internal transfers is to check your CAP report in StuView. If your course was automatically transferred, you'll be able to see that information under your new program requirements. If you don't see that, then you would need to contact your academic department and ask them about a course substitution. There are quite a few resources. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy those and post them in the chat, so you can also review that for more information as well.
Okay, thank you. And if the course is exempted through transfer credits, will the fee for the given semester reduce? It's hard to say yes or no. In most cases, when the student is exempted just from one course, the student's still full-time and fee is the same, because students, when they are full-time, they do not pay per each course. They pay per block, per semester. So if you are exempted, I suggest you to contact registration office, and they will be able to provide the correct information, how much you have to pay. Okay. How will the GPA be calculated of the courses that are exempted?
So when you accept your transfer credit application, you get a grade of EX, and EX grades are actually not calculated in your course GPA. So that was what Stanley was mentioning. Like if you do the PLAR process, you actually do get a letter grade, but with transfer credit, it's an EX on your transcript that is not included in the GPA.
Okay, thank you. My professor before doesn't have the course outline on the subject. I applied to, but I already submitted my transcript evaluated by Wes. What should I do?
What we recommend is if you can check your institution's website for the course outline, or contact your the academic department of your previous institution for assistance. That might be helpful. If you're not able to get the course outline at all, send us an email at transfercredit@georgebrown.ca. We'll connect with the academic evaluator to see if the application can be reviewed without the course outline.
Okay, thank you. As it is mentioned that PLAR's deadline is 3 months prior to starting of the course, but my course will begin in January 11th. Can I still apply for PLAR? Yes, you can still apply. You can send me email to plar@georgebrown.ca and I will provide you all information. So how will the average GPA look like at the end of the course if the GPA is not counted for exempted courses?
So if you are, for example, taking 5 courses for semester 1 and you received an exemption for one of the course, your GPA for that semester will, we will use the remaining 4 courses in that semester to calculate your GPA. So the 4 courses, they have a greater weight.
Thank you, Melissa. And so far, we do not have more questions, and it's almost 10:30. If you have more questions after these sessions, you can send emails to the PLAR or transfer credit offices.
And I think we also just wanted to point out that on January 8th, you will receive an email just asking you for feedback.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Yep. Good luck, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Julia.
No problem.
And bye.
Bye.
Hey, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you click the record at the start?
I think Yulia did. I think it's still being recorded.
Okay. No, because I clicked it as well. So I don't know if that means there'll be two different files, or if it's it'll recognize that it's already been started. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Because you started speaking and it was still like the record button was still visible on my screen, right? So
So I didn't hit it. I usually hit it, but I know I didn't press it this time around. I thought Yulia did, so maybe no.
yeah, and I mean, tell me, like I'm not sure this recording function. Are we doing that really to record, or is it sort of like a deterrent for people who might put like rude or obscene things in the chat?
No, I think what they want to do is they want to be able to post it
Okay.
on YouTube at a later time period. So I guess what they would do is take maybe the best out of the 3 presentations that we're doing, and then it will be reviewed just to make sure that the caption information is correct, and then that will be posted.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a
Yeah.
lot. If I don't talk to you,
No problem.
holiday.
You too. You too.
Sure.
Take care.